weighted average. So.
Oh yeah, you guys didn't have to learn weighted average, or you know you need to know kind of the general-ist of what they are, which weighted average.
It just smooths it all out. It's
smooths out the curve.
Like the gray area between both of them, right?
Yes, and then with like specific identification, you just need to know. You literally just say, all right, I have a ring, I have a necklace, and I have a bracelet. Each one are cost at different values, and when they're sold, they are said to be that value. So like your cost of goods sold is 1 for 1.
Yes.
I had to learn when I was in my principal's class. I had to learn all of them.
Oh man.
Welcome in.
Hi.
We're just getting set up and started.
You a business major?
Yes.
What's your major?
We have markers up at the front. If anyone wants to use markers on the table.
Thank you.
Otherwise, you can use your own paper and pen. Do you want a marker?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Oh, I'm throwing it. Hi.
I heard.
Welcome back.
Because you're a science professor. I wanted her. I was like, there was 2 people left, and then someone got it. I love it. How was Megan?
She's good. Yeah. I try to understand, but I just don't.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd you do in your first exam?
I failed
So I just want to make sure everyone checked in at the front, right?
Yes.
Okay. We just got to make sure because attendance is important, especially with keeping rooms.
Do you think it's going to be better this test or did you come? Okay. This I feel like she's going to post the video too. It's really helping me.
I hope so. I mean, that's one because I just did so bad on the first one. I'm like, I'm sure. Oh, this is the review that she sent.
So we did she didn't give us like the
I sent one today. It's in your email.
Oh, nice.
So
you just
Blocker has a different review though. So
Yeah.
I have to approve reviews with the teachers. So I've managed to make connections with, well, Miss Yeager, I'm embedded in her program, but I've made connections with Blocker. I'm trying to get more. I'm working my way with Mr. Harvin. If anyone has Mr. Harvin's class.
he teaches 2301.
He teaches 2301. So like I'm making my way through the accounting department. But
Here it is.
we're going to.
But there's I think it's Miss Yeager or what's her name?
Yes, Miss
I have
Yeager.
Blocker.
You have Blocker.
But is it kind of like the same test review or?
So with Miss Yeager, I mean with Miss Blocker, she has a different one that she made. The one with Yeager, I'm specifically made, but the review that you guys went over yesterday, she sent it to me and I sent it out to everyone with her permission.
Okay.
So you guys have that study guide, the answers, and if you guys have any problems, you'd rather email me or well, Miss Blocker or me, or email us both.
But
Either way
it's
works.
relatively the same information, right?
Yes. Oh no, it's the same study guide that she worked with you guys. She just decided, you know what, let him have it.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, okay.
let's just start going through this.
Did you know we had homework for chapter?
For 8? Yeah, I finished it.
We had like 3 homeworks and like
No,
the span of
yeah,
a
we
week.
had them like
homework.
yeah, like 3.
I forgot to do like 8. I was like,
sit down and
look at
should we do like next week
And
or
if
something?
not, then I'm not gonna be home till like late tonight, but send me an email with a picture of whatever you're having trouble with, and I
because
will
I
try to
just
finish
finished a
this.
homework seeing like what I
But I'm definitely, I'll at least be able to respond to it before
And I
11.
saw it said like
That's perfect.
this
Thank you.
due at March 4th. I was just like, bro, that is today. I was
Is that good?
yeah.
All right, let's start getting down into this. Just like last review, we're gonna be just firing off from the very beginning. I'm gonna be asking you guys questions, and we're gonna work on some problems. Unlike past people who haven't been to exam study but have been to some group studies, we're not gonna be taking as long to really go through some of these problems. I'll give you guys maybe 5 minutes if I put a problem up here, and walk around the room. But after 5 minutes, I'm just gonna start doing this just so we're able to get through all the content in time. So to start off, we learned about 3 types of businesses: service company, merchandise company, and manufacturing company. Can anyone tell me what the merchandise company does? Because that's what all chapter 4 is about.
Sell inventory.
Sell inventory, the buy and sell merchandise inventory to customers, goods and revenue. Now, the merchandise operating cycle, we go through purchasing inventory, selling inventory, billing customers, create account receivable, collect cash from customers. Does that make sense so far?
Mhm.
So 2 accounts are now related to inventory. Can anyone tell me what 2 accounts are related to inventory?
Cost of goods sold.
Cost of goods sold,
Inventory?
inventory. Those 2 are tied to inventory. Now, what is inventory?
Just
Okay.
like product or goods you have just like on hand.
Yep, that's basically what we want to sell. Now, what about cost of goods sold? Can anyone tell me what cost of goods sold is?
Oh, that makes sense.
Hey, if you have answers, don't worry.
Like exactly what cost?
Yes.
Like
Well,
the definition?
you can tell me tell me as close to the definition as you get. You don't have to tell me like word for word the definition, but explain to me what cost of goods sold is.
How much it actually costs for the seller? Go ahead.
What kind of count is it?
Oh, it's
You're right in that definition. It is what it costs us to get that. Not cash.
so it's
Expense.
It's expense. Cost of goods sold is an expense. It is under equity though. So cost of goods sold is the expense account for inventory for basically what it took for us to sell this inventory. And is cost of goods sold seen with any other account besides inventory?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you will always see it buddy with inventory. Now you guys learn about the perpetual and the periodic. But we only do the perpetual system. You just need to know a little bit about the periodic. So can anyone give me a general definition of both? Or do the perpetual system first?
It's cost. Yeah.
It's like recording like the merchandise going out after every like sale.
Yeah.
Yep. We are constantly updating inventory.
It's like when you go to the store and you do like self checkout, it's like a barcode that's perpetual.
Yep. What about periodic? What makes it special?
A physical count during a period.
You have to physically count it.
Wouldn't that be referred with like small businesses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like a lot of small businesses typically don't have the machinery that big businesses like Walmart have. So instead they have to go into the back and say, all right, at the end count of all of our cigarettes, we have 10 cigarettes of this and of that brand and of that brand. Mark it off and say, all right, good night. Another way to think of it, perpetual, you're constantly doing it. Periodic, we'll do later. So some terms for it is periodic requires physical count to determine inventory on hand. Updates only at the end of the period when inventory count is complete. And perpetual method keeps a continuous record of inventory units in dollars, records units purchased, sold, and the quantity of merchandise on hand after every transaction. But you still have to physically count to figure out things because there's physically counting inventory. You know, some things might be stolen or broken, or they just never made it and they were processed wrong. So they still have to count inventory, but it's not as integral. So now we're going to get into the fun of this. I'm going to make a chart. There's not going to be numbers about this, but I'm going to put up a chart that's basically going to give all of the journal entries for the buyer and all of the journal entries for the seller. We'll work on the buyer first. I'll give you guys a couple minutes and I'll walk around if anyone has questions, and then we'll work on the seller. Welcome in. we're gonna be making journal entries based on if you're the seller or the buyer. Focusing on the buyer first, and then we'll go over to the seller. So for the buyer, tell me, what does it take? What's a journal entry for buying inventory? What's a journal entry for returning inventory? What's a journal entry recorded when you're transporting your goods? What's a journal entry when you pay with a discount? And what's a journal entry when you don't pay with a discount? See how far you guys can get in a couple minutes for the buyer, and then we'll run through it, and then I'll give you the same amount of time for the seller. The trick thing about the seller though, even though we're not working on it just yet, seller deals with 2 journal entries for the selling inventory and the returns of inventory. And if anything's illegible, let me know. I will rewrite it. I'm just trying to write as fast as possible. Oh no, you're good. Welcome in. The markers, if you guys want to put on the board.
Allow me to write on the table.
We're going through the journal entries of buyer and seller. I've made a chart, so there's not going to be numbers. It's just figuring out, okay, what's the journal entry? We're focusing on the buyer first. What's the journal entries for when you buy inventory, return inventory, transport inventory, pay with discount, and pay without discount? So if anyone has any questions, raise your hand and I'll come by over and help out.
So for the returns, isn't it flipped?
So, question, it looks like you're doing things as the seller.
That's nice.
You're
Okay.
good, but you at least have a head start on it, doing things when you're selling products. Instead of using sales and accounts receivable, when we're the ones buying inventory, what 2 accounts are we gonna use?
Yeah, inventory and
Not cost of goods sold. So when we owe people money because we bought,
oh, accounts payable.
there you go. So that's your first journal entry. Now you're right that returns is flipped though.
Okay.
So this is all been checked before. I know it's not like having all the word problems with it, but think of at least starting off when we're buying inventory. So when you purchase, let's say a couple of units of inventory from someone other, what's the journal entry you use to record that?
Oh,
So that's what it's like. We're gaining inventory, but we owe people money. So that's gonna be the first journal entry. Second is we owe less money because we returned some profit. Does that help out?
for example, like a transfer.
Yep.
Okay, so you probably want like if it was a buyer.
Yes, as a buyer, because
and this- Okay,
as any word problem you guys are gonna do, basically, it's going to follow this bare bone structure. So whenever you're saying, okay, purchase, it's gonna be that same journal entry. So just trying to get you guys to know, okay, in these scenarios.
Oh, I see.
So I can do. So you're gonna be doing different ones with your profit. So we do sales as soon as possible. So it's there.
Could you show me the transport part for that?
Yes, because sometimes we have to pay for shipping.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. Dude, I need to start.
Well, there's a trick to buyer, and I'm gonna show you guys when we're going through, but what has been coming up with every entry without fail?
Inventory.
There you go. It's Barbara.
Sales.
To get the initial equation, just walk in a second.
Oh, there's no equation, it's just trying to figure out if within each scenario, what journal entry works. That way, it's the same, the word problems, they're important, but knowing the entry when they go with the certain situation is even more important, because that way, whatever problem you guys are given, you know what journal entry.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys 2 more minutes and then we're gonna run through this. Welcome in. Checking, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, I understand. So, as a buyer, we have to do certain journal entries when we're buying things. So, we'll, right over here. This is like the same problem as this is asking for. So if we purchase some units of inventory and add terms of sale, what's gonna be the debit, what's gonna be the credit? Without looking at numbers.
What did the last two say?
Pay with discount, pay without discount.
The inventory account.
Yeah, so one's debited, welcome in, and one's gonna be credited. And then with returns, it's, okay, we're returning product, we're returning what we bought, because we didn't like it. So something's going to change. We're basically giving them inventory, they're reducing our debt. So what's gonna be that journal entry? So it's gonna be the flip, because we don't owe as much money.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm gonna run through this. Alright. Go through, and for those that just joined in, we're making a chart. It's basically all of the journal entries we're going through chapter 4, where we're the buyer and we're the seller. We're focusing on the buyer right now, where we buy inventory, return inventory, transport inventory, pay with discount or pay without discount. And then we're gonna be focusing on the seller, where we're selling inventory, we're returning inventory, transporting inventory, paying with or without the discount. And if you notice, seller has two different journal entries, but we're gonna focus on the buyer right now. I'm gonna pick a different color so it's noticeable. So first things first is that we gain inventory. So we will debit inventory. And most times, and I know for a fact on your test, we're gonna be buying this inventory on account with terms involved where we are gonna owe someone money. So we're going to put accounts payable. Now, returning, what's gonna be the journal entry for returning?
Accounts payable and inventory.
Accounts payable and inventory, we are reversing everything. Now, for transportation, this one's a little tricky. But what's gonna be the journal entry when when we are responsible for transporting our equipment over?
Free.
So it wouldn't be freight, it'd be inventory. Freight would be if it was seller,
Mhm.
but because we're paying more money to get our inventory over, we're saying this is a little more valuable. The reason why we say, all right, this is more valuable is due to the fact, it's the idea, if I bought an $8 book off of Amazon, but because of shipping prices, I bought a $15 book, am I gonna tell people I bought an $8 book or a $15 book? $15 book. It's more expensive in my mind. It has more value. And that's the same thing here, where even though we bought it at a lesser price, we had to pay for that shipping and handling. So we kind of bundle it all together with our inventory. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And for this one, we typically always just say cash. We just handed the carrier some money.
So for buyers, we don't need, what was it?
The freight or like the delivery expense.
And then like 2 journal entries for each. I don't know.
2 journal entries for seller, but for
Okay.
buyer, it's always 1 journal entry. And if you notice something, each journal entry, it all revolves around the buy, I mean, not the buyer. Of course, it revolves around the buyer, but it all revolves around inventory, the value of inventory. And by the end of it, you're just always having that ending value of inventory. So we're gonna say pay with discount. So we've paid with the discount. What's gonna be the debit and what's gonna be the credits?
Isn't it an accounts payable?
Yep. Well, debit accounts payable.
Credit cash.
We're gonna credit cash. What else are we crediting?
Inventory.
Inventory. The reason why we credit inventory is because, again, we have decided this is less valuable. We've paid less money for it, so we're thinking, okay, it's not worth as much as we thought. So we're gonna decrease its value a little, and that's why we credit inventory. Is there any questions so far with this? All right, so pay without discount. How do we do the journal entry when we pay without the discount?
Accounts payable, yes.
Accounts payable and cash. We don't worry about anything else. 1 for 1. All right. So I'm gonna give some less time for the seller, but I'll give you guys 3 minutes to work on the seller side of things. And then we're just gonna run through it. And then we're gonna move on to putting this chart into practice with some problems.
For returns for sellers, it's still flipped, right?
It's flipped, but instead of using sales, you're gonna use a different account.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, So in summer, we're focused on keeping expensive goods. And so we're gonna manage. Quick.
This one, right, they are.
You have part of it correct. This would be accounts receivable and accounts payable and then inventory. So accounts payable would be debited. Inventory would be credited. So it would be receivable, but there's going to be two different journal entries because you're dealing with profit and dealing with inventory. So over here, inventory would be giving crediting your inventory, and then they would be debiting your accounts receivable, but you're going to credit something else here. Instead of inventory, and you're gonna debit something else here, instead of. It could be anything also. Expense and all that, but yeah, you don't, you're not doing straight up inventory. So, you wouldn't debit inventory. You instead debit a specific account that has with sales. So a company revenue account that says, hey, we do this now, it's this now. Cost of goods sold would tie with when it's selling that inventory. So this would instead be a sales. That's why I like to make this, because it's, I like to think charts are something to the same, and it helps more with it.
Well, and this is half the test, this is the half the trouble. And hopefully the study guide. Very well, this part, we have to start. This part is the.
Material, we have a chapter 4 video from the setting, that also wants to everything, so we don't get to it today. Look at that, just see what's happening. All right, y'all, we're gonna start going through this. Now, once again, we have two different entries as a seller. As a seller, we have to worry about two things whenever we're dealing with selling inventory and returning inventory, and that's going to be profit and inventory. Both have a completely different value, because if we one for one said, hey, I bought this for $5 and I'll sell you this for $5, I've made no profit. Instead, we're figuring out, all right, how much did it cost me to get this? We'll say $3, and how much did it cost the other person for me to sell it? So I'll sell it to you for $5, $2 profit. But to do that in a journal entry is a different beast entirely. So can anyone tell me what the profit portion of your journal entry is as a seller?
Accounts receivable and
Accounts.
sales.
Yep. Perfect duo. Now, what's gonna be the inventory portion?
Cost of goods sold. Yeah.
Same difference. Cost of goods sold, what's gonna be credited?
Inventory.
Inventory. Over here, we're saying, all right, we made sales on account, And over here, we're saying we got rid of our inventory. We're using that expense debit of cost of goods sold. Now we're gonna go over to the returns. What's that gonna look like?
Sales RNA
Sales RNA.
and accounts receivable.
Yep. So for anyone that doesn't know the acronym sales RNA, that is sales returns and allowances. So the fullness of it is sales returns and allowances, but we shortened that up to sales RNA just to make it fit in this box. And also to save your guys' hands during the exam. So we do that because the whole point of the seller is we want to keep our profits pure. And we're going to talk more about that when we start getting into the gross profit equation. But we make a full new account to say, hey, they returned some stuff. Now, what about the inventory version?
Is it inventory and cost of goods sold?
Yep. We flip it because we're getting that back, meaning we didn't sell that. That cost of goods sold is null and void, and we need to write this backwards. Say, hey, we didn't actually sell this. A reminder, your journal entries are basically the law of the land. These affect your account values on the balance sheet. And that's why we need to reverse things and say, hey, we're taking this out. We're crediting this or debiting this to affect its balance because we want to be sure that we want to have the right balance on the accounts. Now, what about transport? Can anyone give me transport?
Is that right?
Huh? What do you say? Delivery expense. But it's not always called that.
Oh, okay. That's right.
There's many ways to call this. From delivery expense, fried out, we have transportation out, we have any which way to say, hey, we expense this out. It depends on your teacher what they use, but just know that it has many names and it's not specifically saying, hey, our sales or accounts or something other. It's a delivery the best way and the way that I see universally is delivery expense. Now, it wouldn't be called FOB though. So the FOB affects this, and we'll go over FOB after, but FOB affects whether you're dealing with this journal entry, but it won't be, you won't have an account called FOB. So we got pay with discount. Can anyone tell me what the payment for payment with discount is?
Debit cash.
Debit cash, we got some good pull more money.
And then credit, accounts receivable, and sales discount.
And sales discount. So once again, we're not trying to affect our sales in a way. Oh wait, I realized something. Don't copy that down. Don't copy that one down. So you're right that we have sales discount, but we're not going to credit it. We're going to debit it because it's a contra revenue account.
That is right.
The reason why we debit sales discount is because we're not going to debit sales. We're not going to lower our sales because we want they paid with a discount. We're going to make this new account called sales discount because we want to physically see at the end of the quarter how much discounts did we give. And again, this is going to tie in with the gross profit equation because you're able to look at that and really see, all right, my net sales is affected by three things: sales, sales returns and allowances, and sales discount. Two of those things eat into sales, and if your sales are way lower than you thought, at the end of the equation, you're able to say, there's my culprit. So now we're gonna pay without discount. So what's that gonna look like?
Cash,
Cash,
accounts receivable.
cash, and accounts receivable. And we filled out this chart. So this is all the journal entries and the scenarios that are going to require these journal entries for chapter 4, for the most part. There could be some that I'm not thinking of just right now, but as far as it goes, this is basically your guide to studying chapter 4 and its journal entries, because anytime you're given a problem, a word problem or this like, that's saying, hey, someone returned this amount of merchandise to us that we sold to them, you know exactly the journal entries. Same thing with if you're paying with a discount, paying without a discount, these scenarios, the wording may change, but the facts remain. We're gonna start, I'm gonna start erasing this if anyone needs to take a picture of it. Otherwise, it's going to be up on YouTube. I'll give a minute for that. And then we're gonna start, we're gonna talk real quick about FOB destination and shipping point, and then we're gonna start putting all of this into practice. So first things first with FOB shipping point and destination, I know it's kind of, it's odd words. I think we found out it was like free on board instead of fried on board. Yeah, it's free on board. We don't need to know what FOB means, but that is definitely, that surprised me. But think of it like this. We're gonna first put this little line out. This is from the store, from the grocery store, we'll say. There we go. And this is your home. When we're thinking about the route from the store to the customer, and obviously this is very simplified because we're talking about companies here and not Walmart's delivery shipping or something like that. But the concept still remains the same. You have FOB shipping point. And then FOB destination. Back. There's two ways to think about this. The first way is literally, if you write this out and say, all right, in this equation, in this wording, it says we have FOB destination. So we'll put a line here. And if we're the buyer, we know as the buyer, we get to sit at home till that little truck gets over to our home. So we know we don't have to worry about shipping at all because it's FOB destination. Now if you erase that and then said, okay, shipping point. As the buyer, I now know, oh, at this point, I have to pay the truck to get that over to me.
As a buyer?
As a buyer, yes. So basically, one way is like seeing, okay, how much does each one take? Because this half over here is where the buyer is. This half over here is where the seller is. So if it stops at the seller, because of FOB shipping point, that means the buyer is responsible for everything here. And if we make the line over here of FOB destination, the seller is responsible for everything over here.
Okay.
So this is a visual way to look at it. Another way is by wording. If visualization isn't the way, then wording is the other way. And it's FOB shipping point, FOB destination. Think of yourself as the customer. When I think of FOB shipping point, do you think of shipping costs or do you don't think of shipping costs? Think of shipping costs? Because we think, okay, FOB shipping, oh, we have to pay for shipping. Now, as the customer, in the customer's eyes, and we hear FOB destination, you just think, okay, package is gonna get here when it gets here. And after that, after you figure out who's responsible for it, then you say, all right, am I the buyer or am I the seller? Because if you could see what it is from the buyer's eye, and if you could say, okay, the buyer is responsible, knowing I'm the seller, I know I'm not responsible because it's one or the other. You can never have both of them responsible. We're not sharing joint custody of the travel time. Instead, one or the other has to have it. So if we say, all right, it's FOB destination, and as the customer or as the buyer, I know the buyer doesn't have to worry about shipping, then we know, all right, if I am the seller though, that means I do have to recognize shipping. Does that make sense?
So we have a question that says FOB shipping for the buyer, do they have to worry about expenses?
And what would be your answer?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
So just if it says shipping point, the buyer pays, if it says destination, the seller pays.
Yes. And it might be worded a little differently on the exam where it's the textbook definition, and I'm going to read it off right here. for FOB destination, title of goods transfers to buyer when goods arrive at the buyer's place of business. So that's saying word for word at destination point, title of the goods, so our inventory transfers to the buyer when goods arrive at the buyer's place of business, meaning our responsibility stops here. Meaning the seller has to deal with it.
Okay.
Shipping point, title transfers to buyer when the goods depart the seller's place of business. Now we're talking about cutting the line here. We don't want anything to do with that inventory at this point. All right. Now let's go into the fun part and start working on some word problems. All right, first part's up, write the journal entry for it. I'm going to start working on the next couple pieces because we're gonna go through the whole buyer's cycle for this.
Does it say we bought or like after on January 1st?
Yes, we bought.
Okay,
I'm sorry if my handwriting's a little atrocious.
it's cool. Would that be a seller or would that be a company?
So,
I mean, a buyer or?
so if we bought stuff, does that make us a buyer or a seller? A buyer, because we bought. Now, if it said we sold, that means we're a seller.
Okay, I see.
Because we're still a company, buying and selling is our thing, but buying is too, because companies need to be able to get the resources. Yes.
When it says with terms, that means it's an account, right?
Yep. Anytime you see with terms, it's automatically an account. All right. I believe I have the full problem up on the board. I'm gonna give us 3 minutes, and then we're gonna work through this and then work through the seller. Come in. We are working on a problem up here. We got 3 minutes, and then we're gonna start solving it. Welcome in. We're currently working on the problem on the board for a few minutes? We're gonna just start running through it.
Yeah.
Are you paying for shipping, credit or no?
So it would be on cash.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime we're paying for shipping, it's typically on cash. Yes.
So for January 9th, would it still be under 10,000 or would it be
So what's the term of discount? So-
accounts payable?
Not the accounts payable, but how many days do we have to get a discount?
10.
10. And are we within 10 days?
Yeah.
We're good to go then. Oh, your accounts payable would still be, well,
Yeah, that's what I was.
yeah. So your accounts payable is going to be the amount that you owe. So make sure you're keeping track of how much we do owe them still. All right. Give one more minute, and then we're just gonna start running through this. I know some of you guys just got here, but we're trying to get through all 3 chapters in one, and then afterwards we can have more languid problem solving time. All right. So on January 1st, we bought $10,000 worth of cakes, returns of 2/10, N/30, FOB destination. Now, can anyone tell me what 10/10 is? 2/10 is?
2%.
Discount within 10 days.
2% discount within 10 days. So, but what do we have to worry about on the first day? What's the only thing we worry about? Huh? How much we bought. So we only have to worry about that. What's gonna be my debit?
Inventory.
Inventory, because we got a whole bunch of cakes in. So we're going to debit our inventory for 10,000. What are we gonna credit?
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable. 10,000. Now we don't have that for now. Welcome in. So now January 2nd, we returned 1,000 worth of cakes. What's gonna be our journal entry? What's our debit first?
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable. What's gonna be our credit?
Inventory.
Inventory. let's see. Okay, everything's coming back. Everything's coming back. And it's still recording, good. Great. Sorry for the hiccup, everyone. All right, so now we're dealing with the transportation part of things. On January 5th, ship was $100. So, question, are we responsible for shipping?
No.
We're FOB destination. Now, who's responsible for shipping when we're FOB destination? Seller. So technically, we're not responsible for it, so we just put in A. Now, if we were responsible for it though, what would the journal entry be? Huh? It would actually be inventory. So delivery expense and cash would actually be if we were the seller. So in this case, we're debiting inventory. Cash. The biggest reason why is because we would say this is more valuable. It's like buying, I keep saying this, but it genuinely is like buying an $8 book off of Amazon and the shipping price makes it $15. So I'll tell everyone I got a $15 book instead of an $8 book because of that extra cost. It has a lot more value to me. So our inventory is going to have $100 extra value. We didn't get anything extra. It's not like they gave us a free cake involved and we're just accounting for it. No, we're just saying the shipping we just add on to it.
I don't understand.
You don't understand?
That's the, that is the shipping point.
Yes. Well, no, this is, yeah, if it is shipping point.
So we don't write that?
We wouldn't, you can write it to know the journal entry, but if it was, because it's FOB destination and we're the buyer, we're not responsible for it. So it's a trick question.
So if this was like on the test, we would put NA and that'd be correct, and that's it?
If you're not responsible for it. If you
Yeah.
are responsible, yes. So the reason why inventory is important in this, welcome back. Inventory, we're adding to its value. We got to add to its value due to the fact that we had to pay more for it. Kind of another way of explaining it is actually in chapter 8. So, you know, with buying, preparing land, we have to prepare the land for sale, or actually more important, equipment. If we bought equipment and had it transported and we had to pay the shipping, we're adding that shipping on top of the equipment value because it's more valuable, because it took us more to get into it.
So in essence, we're capitalizing it?
Yes, in essence, we're capitalizing it. Perfect. Does that help make sense?
I don't get why, but I get how.
The reason why is just because we want to recoup those costs. If we had to, let's say we put a more material amount here. If this was $1,000 worth of shipping, we want to be able to say, all right, the cost of goods sold when we sell these, we're able to see it was a higher value, and it could help us determine later on, do we need to cut on shipping price? So being able to add it onto inventory makes it seem like, all right, if our inventory costs this much, why? And we can point our hands at shipping and say, all right, shipping costs us a lot of money. It made it a lot more expensive. That makes sense? So I can understand where your head's at though, because it doesn't make sense. Okay, we bought this for the set amount, and why isn't it just kept at the same amount? And it really is just because we want to be able to add on to how much did it take to get here? How much effort? It's basically the value of it is how much effort we took into it. It took $100 worth of effort to get our inventory over here, so we have to add more to that inventory. Does that help kind of?
I don't know, I'll just have to remember it.
If anything, the best way to memorize the buyer cycle, you're gonna have an inventory in everything, if you notice. So we have inventory when we're purchasing, inventory when we're returning, inventory when we're shipping. And last bit is what's gonna be on January 9th, we paid for our purchase. What's gonna be our debit? What's gonna be our credit?
Is it accounts payable 9,000?
Accounts payable 9,000. Now, why is it accounts payable 9,000? You're completely right.
Because they returned $1,000 worth of cakes.
They returned $1,000. Now, this is where teach starts come in handy for anyone that struggled. We know, all right, we credited accounts payable at the very beginning, and then we debited accounts payable later because we made returns. So at the end, that account is 9,000. It's again tying back to if we return some product to Walmart, do I want them to stare blankly at me as I wait for some kind of response, or do I want my money back? In this case, we want our money back. So that's why it's a lower amount than what we got it for at the beginning. Now, what's gonna be our credits?
Cash.
Cash and inventory. Now, how much is gonna be our discount?
180.
Percent. So it's, I believe it's 180. I'm just double checking too. 180. So how much are we putting in for cash? 8,820.
Because they met the discount price, so it's 2%, 2% off the 9,000, which is 180.
So, and again, the reason why we use inventory and we're crediting it is because our inventory is a lower value. We're saying, all right, we didn't pay as much, so technically we paid 8,820. That inventory was not worth the 9,000 that we paid for it, so we just knock it down a step. If we were to do, again, P charts to kind of visualize it. We have inventory, we're gonna skip over shipping since this is more concerning what we purchased. So we know we purchased 10,000. We know we got rid of 1,000. And we know we just got rid of 180. At the end of that, we will get 8,820, which is exactly how much we paid for it. So that's the reason why we use inventory for that. But yeah, another way to remember the buyer cycle is that whenever you're the buyer, one account will always be inventory, no matter what. One account will always be inventory. When in doubt, inventory out. All right. So now we're gonna work on the seller portion. All right, first problem's up.
Was 10, oh,
Yeah, it was 10,000. So first problem's up, start working on the journal entry. I'm gonna start putting down the other pieces. Oh wait, I forgot to put the terms, never mind. Let me set up the terms.
Yeah,
So in over 30
yeah.
means that it, no discount, all due in 30 days.
Wait, what?
No discount, all due in 30 days. So whatever is on top is how much discount you get. How many is on bottom is basically the number of days. So if you ever see on a contract in real life too, in over something, the number below is always going to be the amount of days that contract is due.
So we have 30 days to pay this?
Yep.
Okay, And then we only get a discount if we pay it within 15 days.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, a minute. Password. Yeah, it's all out on the board. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. So feel free to discuss with the people at your table if need be, to kind of figure things out as well.
Yeah. Because that's the first question is, they return 1 gram of cake. So that's not a.
Take it one. I'm gonna give
What is,
2 more minutes, huh?
what is the last? one?
Oh, they paid us within the discount period. Yeah, of course. Is there any other questions? I think we got like 1 more minute. All right.
Sales on it. Yeah. So the first thing, just to get your point, is rough on sales on. This one's a 30 gram, right? So we sold 30 gram. 40 gram.
Let's see.
And then the sales on it to match.
All right. We're gonna start going through this now.
So we. About 30 grand about it, so they
So we sold a customer cakes for $30,000. Cost of inventory was 10,000. Terms was 3, over 15, and over 30, FOB destination. What's gonna be the first journal entry?
Accounts receivable, 30,000.
Account receivable, 30,000. Sales. For how much?
30,000.
30,000. Is this our only journal entry?
Is this same revenue?
New.
What, I always say? Sales is the same as revenue. They're both basically one for one. The only reason we use sales in this chapter is because it coincides with the idea we're selling goods instead of just like revenue, because we got things like consulting revenue and all that. But either way, they're both the same thing. All right, so is that the end of this? What's gonna be the next?
Cost of goods sold.
Perfect. For 10,000. Does this make sense so far?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Now with next one, they returned $3,000 of cakes. Cost of inventory was 1,000. What's gonna be the journal entry?
Sales RNA.
Sales RNA. Otherwise known as returns and allowances. And what am I crediting?
Accounts receivable.
Perfect. All right, is that all? Nope. What's next?
Yeah.
Gotta flip it. First journal entry, we're basically accounting for the profit we've made and inventory that went out the door. The second journal entry, we're basically saying, all right, we're making an account that, hey, people return some things. This is why we use a separate account, because we want to make sure our sales are pure. The whole point of being the seller, we want to keep our sales pure. And I'm going to show you guys right after this one. We're going to start working on the gross profit. So then we have to deal with the inventory, which is a completely different cost. So we have to make a separate journal entry saying, all right, this is how much inventory we sold, and this is how much inventory came back to us. Now, shipping costs costed us $300 of cash. Are we responsible for shipping?
Yes.
Yes. Why is that?
Destination.
FOB destination error.
Yep. FOB destination, the seller is responsible. So now, what's going to be our journal entry? Delivery expense
Cash.
and cash. All right. They paid us within the discount period. What's going to be the journal entry when they pay us within the discount period?
Cash AR.
So which one's debited, which one's credited? Those are all the accounts. We got
Debit cash.
debit cash.
Sales discount.
All right. We credit accounts receivable. So when we debit cash and sales discount and then credit accounts receivable, what's our numbers for all of these?
Cash, 27,000.
Yes, account receivable is 27,000.
Oh.
You have to think of accounts receivable and accounts payable in these situations as the anchor. They are basically what get determined the value throughout your they get to determine the value without your journal entry. Basically, they're gonna be the rock that tell you what's happening, because they're gonna say, all right, everything's gonna equal this, and we don't do 30,000 due to the fact that we return 3,000 worth of goods. So how are we gonna find our sales discount?
Multiply by 97 or 0.97.
Wait, how do you get 0.97? Oh wait,
That's total
Well, it's
cash.
3.
yeah, that's cash.
Oh, yeah.
You it took me a minute, but yeah, you reverse engineered to find out cash. But that's not a bad way of doing it too, if that helps, doing it by 97 to find your cash. So the discount would be 810. The cash itself, 26,190. That's a terrible 90. So let me fix that up. There we go. Any questions with being a seller?
So for selling, the 27,000 will always be with accounts receivable.
Yes.
Because it's flipped.
Yes, because if you think about it again, we're taking our account receivable here and saying, all right, 30,000 we are gonna get back, but they return 3,000 because we don't want to be the Walmart that looks them in the eye and watch them go away disappointed. We want to say, all right, we'll give you your 3,000 and we'll lower your debt. So we're now gonna go over to the gross profit part of this, because this is perfect to figure out gross profit. So can anyone tell me what the gross profit equation is?
It cost of goods sold.
Sales minus? So you're running cost of goods sold. That's how to figure it out. So we got our net sales minus cost of goods sold. Now, net sales is comprised of many accounts. What does it take to get to your net sales?
Sales minus sales. Allowances and
So sales minus sales returns and allowances minus sales discount. The reason why we split it up this way is because that's going to be every account over here. We're actually going to take the values we did from last problem and start pumping it into here so we can find out the gross profit of what we just did. So first, we're going to work on our net sales. So how much did we do in sales within this problem? And here, I'll make this bigger actually. 30,000. So we know 30,000. So we got 30,000. Now that's our sales. I'll make a note here. Now we need our sales RNA. 3,000. So we subtract out 3,000. Now we need our sales discount. 810. Our net sales is then 26,190. So that's our net sales. Now that's not all though. We subtract our gross profit. How much was our gross profit? I mean, not our gross profit, COGS. How much was our cost of goods sold?
29,000.
One second. So wait, how much was the cost of goods sold?
9,000.
9,000. So now we're able to figure out if we were to look through this problem. Let's see. $17,190. That's our ending gross profit. Basically, from this whole sale and transaction, we made a total of $17,190 from a $30,000 sale. Now, the reason why we do it this way and why we have so many pieces towards being a seller is due to the fact we're able to figure out where did we go wrong if this was even lower. Like if for some reason we got 7,000 out of a $30,000 sale, that's a lot of money to not get. So we're able to pinpoint, was our returns and allowances an issue? Did they return too much? Did we give them too big of a discount? Did we waste too much money on our inventory? We're able to basically nitpick that to be able to figure out why did we get a lower gross profit. And that's why sales is so complicated compared to the buyer, because the buyer, all we're focused about is making our inventory valuable, like seeing how much valuable, not making our inventory value, but figuring out the value of our inventory. Sales, on the other hand, is basically figuring out all of the figures to know what's happening. Any questions? Yes.
Where did you get 9,000 from for cost of goods sold?
10,000 minus 1,000.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Any other?
So the difference between net sales and cost of goods sold is the gross profit.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's gonna be all that is. All right. I'm gonna start erasing this and we're gonna go over to inventory evaluation. Have a good one. I'll ask you, make sure to check in, right? Yeah. All right. So. Go through inventory evaluation, inventory shrinkage. And then we'll be done with chapter 4 and we're gonna move on to chapter 5. All right, there's not gonna be a journal entry with this one. Just figure out the valuation of inventory. Yep, so figure out basically at the end of the day, how much is our inventory worth? And below, I'm gonna write the next problem for shrinkage. That way we're able to wrap this all up into one bundle. And I'll let you guys work on this for 5 minutes and then we're gonna run through it. I might not even give that much long for this question because it should be fairly easy.
I'm doing it. Yeah, I just can't believe that after this meeting, I still read something like this, but it is better. I just, I have to read over the chapters that are written out. It's a test, it's like homework where we have, yes, that will be better.
Wait, I just want to check in because I know the chapter 4 especially is so much all in one, and then we only do chapter 5 and chapter 8 of a day.
I think it is better on chapter 8 than it is on 4.
Yeah, that's good. Alright. So there will be a journal entry tied to the inventory shrinkage part of this. So I'm gonna give one more minute and we're gonna start running through this.
What does that say?
Which one?
After the comma.
Oh, at the end of the quarter, a hand-on count of inventory is 324. Now I'm rushing myself, so I know my handwriting is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I apologize about that. So if anything is unreadable, let me know and I will read through it or rewrite it.
So a on hand.
Yes, a on hand, oh, it might be an on hand count. That might have made things worse. Grammar was not my strong suit. All right. Let's start getting at this. So is the value of what we purchase inventory out important?
Yes.
Yep. Take our 500, is that positive or negative? Positive. All right, now let's do a return. Is that important to our inventory? Is that a positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. Bless you. All right, what about a discount? Is that important to our inventory? Positive or negative? I heard some mixed answers. What was it?
Negative.
Negative. Now, to transfer the inventory in, is that important? Just add it onto it. So when we put this all together, we should get 418. So our inventory is worth $418. And so if we were to pull this onto the balance sheet, we'd see the value 418 on here. Now, we just did a hands-on, yes.
Yeah, you got a $12 discount and a $30 transport. How'd you get 418?
Because 30 is positive. We added onto it. So if we, let me make sure the math is right.
Okay, so you went 400 minus 12 plus 30.
Yes,
Okay,
we went out of order.
I see.
I'm still double checking real quick, just in case. Working.
Okay.
So at the end of the quarter, we realized the hands-on count of inventory was 324. So what's gonna be, how much do we have to shrink for, first off? 94? Well, it wouldn't be 94. Oh wait, it would be 94, never mind. Wait. My mind is playing tricks on me, let me make sure. Yeah, it's 94. Yeah, 94. Okay, ignore my mind. It is 94. So what's gonna be the journal entry for shrinking? Cost of goods sold. Now, the reason why we're using cost of goods sold, even though we're not selling a good, it's basically the inventory expense account. It's where we say inventory went out the door and we got nothing. Well, not all the time that we got nothing for it, but in this case, we did get nothing for it. We're just saying inventory went out the door and we didn't get a return for it. So anytime you're losing inventory in any way, from shrinking, from breakage, from theft, or from selling, your journal entry will always be cost of goods sold and inventory. That's gonna wrap up for chapter 4. So let's move on to good old LIFO FIFO.
Let's go. Oh. Understand life flow?
So as before, we're gonna go through some terminology first, and then we'll start getting into the nitty gritty of some practice problems. So whenever we're the company and we're dealing with merchandise inventory, all goods of a company that they own or have a title of include goods in transit. So goods that we are responsible for from FOB destination and what we're expecting in FOB shipping point. Basically, in those transits, when we're the one responsible for them, whether we're the buyer or seller, we're responsible for them. So we have to include them in our inventory. Goods on consignment. Does anybody know what a consignment is?
It's an agreement that you're gonna sell things for me.
Yes.
Where you're selling a product that's owned by another company.
Yep. So both halves, basically, we're giving someone products to sell, or we're selling someone else's products, and it's an agreement saying, hey, can you just put this on your stand? We still own the inventory. If we have goods on consignment where someone else has those goods, on the opposite end, if we're selling goods that were consigned by someone else, we have nothing to do with them. They have to deal with the count. So we don't have ownership of them. Now, damaged or obsolete goods. Basically, damaged or obsolete goods, even at a lower price, are still included in inventory. We're still going to be dealing with them. The only thing is, if goods cannot be sold, a loss will be reported and inventory will be reduced. So, we already know about merchandise inventory and cost of goods sold. So, now I'm going to talk about LIFO and FIFO last, but we do need to know a little bit about specific identification and weighted average. Specific identification, can anyone tell me what that one is? Yep. So it's kind of like the car dealership or the jewelry store, where they have very specific prices for their products. They're very unique products. You don't, well, I guess at like dealerships, you see them, but like, let's say at a lot, you're going to see a lot of different cars, and they're not all going to be bundled up into their inventory price. Instead, they're going to say that car is we got it for 5,000. We got that car for 3,000. We got that car for 2,000, and we're going to sell it to you for 10,000. So basically, they all have very specific cost of goods sold. Now, weighted average. Can anyone tell me what the weighted average is?
Average on the costs without no regard.
Average them all. We don't care if they're special. They're all the same to us. So it basically flattens out the curve. Now, LIFO and FIFO are two different beasts. They both deal things differently. Well, they deal things similarly than the others, but they deal with them differently as well. They're basically the two opposites of the same coin. Now, can anyone tell me what FIFO is? First in, first out. And what about LIFO? Last in, first out. So I'm not going to talk too much on them. I'm going to instead set up a practice problem, and we're going to start working through it. We're not gonna put specific dates, we're just gonna label those 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5.
That's right.
Yes, that's 219.
And is this LIFO?
What?
All right, hands for LIFO.
Is that all of it, right?
And hands for, put your hands up if you want LIFO. Everyone wants FIFO? All right, everyone wants FIFO. So people have spoken. All right, set it all up. I'm gonna give you guys get about 7 minutes. And then we'll start running through it. Welcome in. So we got a lot more people coming in too. I just want to make sure everyone has checked in at the front, right? Everyone's done the check-in?
It's 219.
219, yes. I'm going, since that's the second time asked, I'm going to change it. Not change it, but at least make it a little more readable. There we go.
I didn't do terrible. It's just my face.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna have reason.
That was like the guy who was at the 2 weeks of what you get. And I was like, it's already in. It's like I didn't even know.
Oh, we did have.
Yeah. But I did see it right like 111.
Hey,
That's like a 70. So.
did you like study?
I literally studied and read the book.
Hi, we're working on a FIFO chart. Is that one not working?
Yes, I started late.
Yeah, go ahead. Here, take this one. This is one. All right, we got 2 minutes. Yes.
Do we subtract the cost, like the cost of its sold?
Yep.
Okay.
How come on the notes, after the sale, after the units, there's no unit cost?
Oh, there's a unit cost right here.
Yeah, but like, how come there's no number for the sale on this one?
For the sale on this one, it's probably because it's different. I don't think this one's actually asking you how much things are sold for. But more than likely, you're going to be asked about them like the test or something. To kind of
Okay.
figure out, okay, what's the revenue?
So this is something that's gonna be on the test, this is really not.
They're both the same thing. The only difference I have is that I put the price of what sold is. But the thing is, you're only gonna worry about that price when revenue's involved. Everything else is going to be just as that is. So in all honesty, know for a fact both of them. Because you'll see what the difference is with the revenue, because that's specifically only for it's figuring out what sales is. It's not for figuring out anything on the chart.
Okay, so if this really doesn't matter, this 100 at each for figuring out the revenue.
The $100 of each is only dealing with the revenue. Everything else, yeah,
Okay, so, okay.
it's only to figure out the revenue. Everything else is all involved with figuring out the cost of goods sold, how much you sold and at what price. And that's really the core point of FIFO. Okay. All right, we're gonna start going through this. Gonna keep FIFO as a purple color. So, day one, what happened?
Purchase 300 units,
Purchased 300 units for what price?
$24.
$24, which will get us a grand total of. That is 7. Here, let me get my calculator out. The only problem with doing questions on the fly is that you never memorize the answers. All right, yeah. 7,200. Now, how much have we sold? Nothing. And now we go to our ending inventory, which is still 300 times 24 equals 7,200. Now, it's very important to know, this is the best format to start noting everything, because if you start just putting the value at the end, you don't know how many units you have and you don't know at what price. So whenever you're filling this out, make sure you're doing units times price equals value. So we're going to day 2 now. What happened?
Purchased 219.
219.
$30.
Anything sold? Nope. And then when we're putting this in at the ending basically in our ending inventory, we need to make sure we put it in order. It's more for your sake than anything, because that way you're able to keep track of what's happening. Not only that, but the reason why we drop down our ending inventory, so we add it together, well, not add it, but we include it in this new day's ending inventory, is because think of this as the report that someone would give you at the end of the day. Here's the ending inventory for this amount. Here's the ending inventory for this day. They're all going to be for a single day of what you're doing when you look in the back warehouse room. All right. 3, did we purchase anything?
No.
Nope.
No, not.
We sold, so we put an N in here. Now, we sold 320. Does the $100 matter?
No.
No, not yet. So I'm setting this up in a way that makes sense to me. You don't have to do exactly like this, but as long as you get the answer right, it's good. I always, before I even get ready to solve the problem, I put down the 2 values I'm picking from, and I'm putting down how many units I need in total. So first off, first things first, how many of the 24 are we taking? Taking it all. Huh?
250.
250 of the 300?
We're taking everything.
Yeah. We're taking everything out of 24.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You're all good. So. All right, how many of the 30s are we taking? 20. So our units that we've taken out of the closet all equal 320. So the ending value. There we go. How many is left of our 30s? 199. Anyone confused up to this point or need any explanation? Any questions? Awesome. We're going to number 4. What's happening?
Purchase 250 units at $32.
I think I see where you got the 250 from now.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Make sure to check in at the front.
Yes.
All right. We're just going through FIFO for now, then we're gonna redo this all and do it as LIFO.
I'm gonna cry.
So, all right, what happened on day 5? Are we purchasing anything? No. But we did sell some things. All right. Can anyone tell me how much we're selling of each product? We'll start with, well, since we went down last time, we'll start up this time. 32. How many are we taking from the 32 slot? Let's see.
Is it 190?
Yeah, 101. It's 101. Wait, let me see.
From 32.
Yep, from the 32 pile. So last time we went down, this time we're going up. So we got 101. How many are we taking of the 30?
199.
199. We're taking the whole piece of the pie. We got nothing left of the 24, so. So how many left do we have of the 24s? Nothing. How many left of the 30s? Nothing. How many left of the 25s? Or 32s? So 149. All right. We'll start with an easy one. What's the value of our ending inventory?
4,768.
4,768. All right. How much was our sales? 17,000? The sales first. We'll go through the cost of goods sold after. But was that the cost of goods sold you're talking? All right, so we'll swap over to the cost of goods sold first, and we'll work on the sales. So it was. I'm just double checking. $17,002. That is our cost of goods sold. Now, can anyone tell me the sales? 62,000. So how we get our sales, we have to now focus on that $100 you had sold it for. We sold each unit for $100, meaning that for every unit we sold, we were handed a $100 bill. So what we do is we take 320 units times 100, take 300 units times 100, get our answer for 62,000. You'd also add 620 together from both 320 and 300 and times that by 100 as well to still get 62,000. But if the amount you sold it for was different, so let's say one was 100, the other was 90, then you just want to get into the practice of doing them separately. That way we're able to figure it out. All right, what about gross profit?
So would you, for the sales part,
Yes.
is that on the sales?
The sales part, I believe It might be on the test. I can't say for certain, but I toss it in there just so you guys know. And it's not, yes,
You subtract sales from cost of goods sold.
you do subtract sales from cost of goods sold. Yeah. No, you got it perfect. So, does anyone got the number? 44,998. Now, there's one thing I'm going to show you guys that's not important for the test, but it's a great way to kind of check yourself. You don't have to know it, but if you want a way to kind of reverse engineer yourself to kind of check your answer, figure out your purchases, then figure out your ending inventory. So we already know our ending inventory is 4,768. Our purchases, if we add them up all together, is 21,770. You then subtract out your ending inventory to get $17,002. Where do we see this? Cost of goods sold. So basically, this is the best way to be able to double check yourself to make sure, hey, I did this correct. And if you didn't, you might want to revisit the problem to see, okay, what happened? All right, we're gonna move this on to LIFO. We're gonna do the exact same problem, but do it under LIFO. Yep, same problem. So we're keeping all of these numbers. We're just now gonna say we're doing LIFO.
Do you have any tests on LIFO tomorrow?
Right.
8 a.m.
Ooh, good luck.
Thank you.
8 a.m. sucks.
It's not that because Thursdays is on my own. That's my only class. And then Tuesdays is 8 a.m. and then 11.
Yeah.
It's weird. I could if I kept like everything.
Have a good one.
Yeah, I erase everything. As in, I just give you this.
I'll give you guys 5 minutes for this one. Or you guys are 7 minutes. 7 minutes. All right, we'll give you 7 minutes. Welcome back. All good. Good one. Yeah, of course. Just toss it in the center. Make a nice little marker pile at the end of this.
We're talking about just the cell number. Fold this. That one.
Just a little. I'm messing with this just real quick because otherwise it's going to yell at me in probably like 10 minutes and that terrifies everyone. All right, got 3 minutes and then we're gonna start running through this. All right, let's start going through this. We're gonna make this the most important thing for now. I'll worry about the extra little stuff later. So, first things first, our purchase. How much should we purchase?
$4 each.
Yep. 324. Makes this. Alright. Fit everything in here. All right. 300 minus 24 equals 7. All right. Having it thin like that, is that too hard to see, or can everyone see with that color? Or should I make it a darker color? Darker? All right. I'll do like a dark blue. Let's see how that looks. So if I, is that easier to see? All right. So we're gonna ignore this. She doesn't exist anymore. All right. Day 2, what's happening? 219 for 30. $6,570. Sold nothing. Oh, wait. Or all right. So far, has there been any difference between the methods? Nope. Now, let's get to the fun part. Day 3, we know we're going to sell 320. And now let's figure out where we're pulling them from. So first things first, what number for, how much are we pulling from 24? 101, let's see. 320 minus 101. The reason why is because how much are we pulling from 30? All of it. We're draining the count of 30. So now things are going to look very different for our cost of goods sold. So how many 24s do we have left? 199. How many 30s? None. All right, day 4, what happened? 250, 32. That was 8,000, right? Yep. Sold nothing. So I have 199 times 24. All right, day 5. We sold 300. Where are we pulling those numbers from?
Last in and the first out.
Yep. So how many of the 32 are we pulling from? 250. How many of the 24? How many of the 30? None, because we got none. All right. All right. How many more of the 24s do we have left? That's you. 149. How many of the 30s? How many of the 32s? All right. What's going to be our ending inventory value? 3,576. Now, how much is going to be our sales? 62,000. Did that change with LIFO? Nope. Nothing changes with the value of money that is handed to us. That's still our revenue. Now, what about our cost of goods sold?
18,000.
I'm double checking. It should come up with an answer sheet for my questions, huh? So 18,194. Now, what's going to be the gross profit? 43,806. And once again, we're double checking our problem. We purchased 21,770. Our ending amount was 3,576. So now $18,194. All right. Now, this is the moment I go into a spiel about LIFO and FIFO, now that we actually got to run through it. If you notice, the gross profit is very different between LIFO and FIFO. FIFO has a bigger chunk of money than LIFO. And the reason why is because in times of rising costs, FIFO is pulling from the inventory that's cheaper, while LIFO is pulling from the inventory that's more expensive. The reason why some companies pick one or the other is all determined on what they want to be viewed as. So if you want to be a company that wants to cut on your taxes, you want LIFO because that gross profit's low. We don't owe that much money. And due to this, due to the fact that taxes are involved with LIFO, the reason why people pick LIFO is what we call the LIFO conformity rule. And a LIFO conformity rule is something very important to know, that if you choose LIFO for your taxes, you choose LIFO for everything. It's your way of life now.
You can switch.
You can switch, but then, so you can switch. This goes into like intermediate accounting at that point. But if you swap to a different system, you actually have to revert at least, I think, 2 years of your inventory records to FIFO. Yes.
What it doesn't consider is your markup on these things. You know, you may write your books in LIFO or FIFO, but obviously you're gonna have the same markup regardless of what you pay in the background. I mean, you're not gonna partially charge a customer this much, partially charge them this much. And you'll have a 40% markup on one and a 42% markup on the other, or something to that effect. So all your prices are the same on the outside.
Yes, that's why what changes really, because if we went into like markups on prices of what the customer pays, it still wouldn't change the fact that our cost of goods sold is larger because it depends on what we had to pay. And that's like the core value of both the LIFO and FIFO. But yeah, it does not take into account what customers pay. Instead, they have to take into account what they pay. So going down, basically some of the key factors of this now that we're able to kind of see it in action. FIFO reports the lowest cost of goods sold, therefore the highest gross profit and net income. Companies who prefer high income to attract investors borrow on favorable terms would use FIFO. So if you want to seem like you're making a lot of money and you want to borrow some money from the bank, they'll say, yeah, good job. Or if you want to just seem very attractive to your investors, because you have a whole lot of gross profit, you choose FIFO. The advantage of it is reports the highest ending inventory on the balance sheet, more accurately reflecting the current cost of inventory. So basically, FIFO is going to pair inventory with, let's say milk. We want to make sure we get the oldest milk out of the door. We don't want to keep it. That's a bad situation on our hand. So with LIFO, this reports the highest cost of goods sold, therefore lowest gross profit and net income. Reports the lowest ending inventory on the balance sheet, and the advantage is you pay lower income taxes and matches current costs with revenue. Now, the reason why we say current costs with revenue is you are currently paying what you currently pay for. So this is in the past. What we paid for these products are behind us. They're gone to us because at some point we're just going to keep getting inventory and we may never touch them. But with our current inventory, the current cost of our inventory is paired with that current revenue. And they're tied together. If you want middle ground, you got weighted average. But any questions on any of those? Nope. And we went over the LIFO conformity rule. So the last thing in chapter 5 is going to be the lower of cost of market. All right. I filled in the problem. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to take care of it. What was that? Oh, that's the one that I'm forgetting. Okay, let me fix that real quick. I'm going to put the quantity over to the left so we keep everything else together. But thank you so much for pointing that out. All right, there we go. Now I'll give you all 5 minutes.
Does this have to do with something like straight line?
No, not the straight line. This is still in chapter 5.
Is this,
Oh.
Yeah, let me come over.
I think I have it. Yeah, I don't know.
So basically that has like everything else, like all the other stuff. So think of the fact it's called lower cost of marketing. Yeah. Yeah, you use lower.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'll come over there. So it's basically
So with the price, so just looking the cheaper.
Yep.
What is this called again?
Lower cost of market rule. We're still in chapter 5, just making sure.
It's intentional. I could try, but I couldn't.
Have a good one. All right, y'all got one more minute and then we're gonna start running through this. All right. We're gonna start going through this. So we'll run through the unit price first, or the total unit price, then we'll run through the total market price. So the unit price is 4. We take 4 times 8, equaling 32. Times 5, 35. 80 here. Let's see. 195, I'm actually gonna check that real quick. Yep, 195 and 108. So if you times your unit price times your quantity, you should be getting these numbers. Let me know if you guys don't get these numbers and we'll figure it out. So now for total market price, you're doing the exact same thing. So 7 times 8 is 56. 9 times 5 is 45. 50. 16 times 13, 208. And 9 times 10 is 90. So all you have to do is just figuring out what is the lower one. So between 32 and 56, which is lower? 32. 35 and 45. 35. 80 and 50. 50. 195 and 208. 195. 108 and 90. 90. So when we start going through this again, wait a second as I fight this thing. There we go.
So we don't add, we just do this all together.
Just do the smaller number. This one is so stupidly simple that I see so many people overthink it and do it wrong just because it's so simple.
Okay, so. If there was a near like the journal, I forgot the little graph is set up a little differently.
Do you mind if I see?
Yeah, just. So you see how this will be like the first
Okay, we can go over that. That one's that part is like next. This is just getting this set up.
looks like we have to do this.
And so we're able to adjust our inventory. So we just have to make the table first. That one is simplified. It's basically they figure out the total cost of the whole market already. So now this is just the expanded version in case some people have to do it. I think I don't think so. I think Miss Eager is though with doing the expanded version with having to do all the like quantity times the unit price in the market. But as long as you know how to get there, and then you know, okay, people do level 1, then you're already halfway there. So after that, we add up the total unit price and we add them all together. So you know, all together, this is 450. And over here is 402. We have a discrepancy. Basically, this is the same thing as an inventory shrinkage due to the fact that this is higher than what it should be. We need to make it the lower cost of market or the cost of market. So you subtract them together, get 48, and that's your figure you need to focus on making a journal entry. I think if your teacher hasn't went through the journal entry, you don't need to know it, but the ones that have went through the journal entry, you do need to know this. So what's the journal entry? Cost of goods sold. For 48. And what's my credit? Inventory. And that's all to it. So that's gonna wrap up chapter 5. We're gonna start working through chapter 8 now.
So this basically kind of coincides with shrinkage?
Yep.
Okay.
Same thing, basically, we're shrinking them out because they are sadly worth less than us.
Are we always gonna do the total unit price minus price?
Yes, that's how you find your difference, because this is how much our inventory should be. This is how much it was. And despite the fact that we had a good set number, we have to pick the lower cost of market or cost. And the lower cost of market and all that will always be lower due to the fact that unless all of our costs are lower than market, market might take some money from you.
Will the total unit price ever be less than the price?
Yeah, that's fine. In 3 of ours, yeah.
Well, like.
Oh,
the
no,
whole as
never.
total,
Never.
no?
Because you think about it, we'll never have a point where we're saying it's bigger. You'll never have a point where we're picking the bigger number.
Okay.
So. We're gonna start on acquisitions now to start us off. This one, we're not gonna start off with terms right off the bat due to the fact acquisition cost is typically just figuring things out. So I'm gonna start setting up for the problem and I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes to figure it out. And it's going to be, you're gonna need to write a journal entry too. And it's gonna be a big problem. It's gonna seem like a lot, but it's gonna make your test seem a lot easier, especially if you're able to categorize it. So make sure you guys are using your T-charts.
We're working on chapter 8 now, right?
Yes, chapter 8. And I managed to keep the room for 30 more minutes, so we're able to extend this since we're the other chapters took a lot of time. So just in case, that way we're able to try to make sure we get through all of chapter 8.
What's the thing I'm having trouble with the most?
Have a good one.
That's like the seller at the bottom. I was like, what is this?
I said, this is gonna be tougher. I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes after I finish it up.
You need some proofreader?
Maybe. If anyone finds any issues when they're reading through it, raise your hands and I will help. I am prone to issues.
So I just been coming across and letting know what she's writing down, and I'm like, I don't know it. I'm getting it.
All right. I'm letting y'all go at this.
Gracious alive.
You guys got 5 minutes. Make sure to write out your T charts because that's going to be the key way to help organize this. Yes, all in cash. It's okay. Take it one. So I will say the important things that you're going to be categorizing is land improvements, building, and equipment. So just figure out where each cost goes where.
And when you say building, you mean the literal building?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, these tables. Let's see. Oh, that's why. They broke the wheel stopper.
So it's land improvement, building, and
Equipment, yes. So what do you mean? Hey, you don't need to do t-shirts. If you don't need to do t-shirts, you don't need to do t-shirts. But you do need to be able to make your own. So you mean like, oh, you mean
I know I should like it. That's maybe
okay, as long as you understand it. But definitely for the test, you need to make sure that you're able to do the full journal entry. Obviously, this is gonna be a whole lot more than the journal entry. You can separate them or you can put them all together. It really doesn't matter. You can do either way or. You can do that. It's just, it makes it makes sense to bundle all together, but at the same time, it makes it easy to separate it.
Okay, so if I did like this test, I felt like my land.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Great. It's like,
Always would be. What's it called? And on purpose. Very, like after, like, you know, like.
are you gonna make it?
Huh?
Are you gonna make it?
Yes, I'm just gonna wait.
It can be done this way or it can be all on screen. I would say you might want to verify procedure on the test, but in all honesty, I don't see anything wrong with this because you're still saying the same thing. It's just you're doing it in a very broken way. And it still makes sense.
So it's like,
I know. The way that is by putting them all together one drawing. But, yeah, but I don't see a problem with this. You just want to clarify procedure, but I think I know we're willing to say that probably that we perfectly. I'll show you. that come in later on, or that watch it on YouTube, or if you guys are wanting to watch it back over on YouTube because there's something you want to revisit and return to, it's up there, and we went through everything. That's my main goal, because I want to make sure you guys succeed in any way. Come back to us. I think it's my permission. I'm surprised with every group study. I haven't seen anyone join through, which makes it a little easier, but also I'm hoping that nothing got confused with Zoom. All right. We're gonna come back here. All right. Now, I know there's a lot here, but I'm trying to cover my bases in one problem. So we're gonna make all of our T-charts. I am starting. Do you have a question?
I was gonna see if I did this.
So make T-charts, you can do it in whatever way you want, as long as it works, but T-charts I feel are the best because they're the best way to kind of toss what you need in. All right, so we bought land for 310,000. What category is that going in?
Land.
Land. All right, we spent 15,000 to level the land. Land. The reason why is because you're leveling the land out. You're basically shaping the land. All right, we paid 5,000 on taxes and lawyer fees. Land. Whatever it takes to get our asset is what we capitalize. And that lawyer fees and that taxes was everything we needed. All right, we paved the land for a building parking lot for 11,000. Land improvements. The building cost us 105,000 to build. Building. And 3,000 for the permit. Building. Equipment cost 18,000. Equipment. It was 600 to ship. Still equipment. We're capitalizing on it. 300 to assemble. And 100 to test it.
Okay, I was worried about the testing part.
Anything to get it in working order. If it ever said, hey, we're doing this a year after, if we had to test it a year after to make sure it works, then we say, okay, that's expensed because it's not
routine.
Huh?
Because it's routine.
It's routine at that point. It's all maintenance. So after that, you add everything up. Start working on our journal entry. We all know we debit all of these because they're assets, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. If anyone's questioning on it, let me know and I'll explain. all that's left is basically to add it all together to figure out, okay, how much cash did we just spend? Which was a good amount. Everyone got 468,000, right? Cool. I did it in my head, so I wanted to make sure. So now we're gonna get started with depreciation, which is always fun. Come on. So what is not depreciable? Land. Make sure you know that land is not depreciable. Everything else is depreciable. Everything else has a limited life. And if we put a limited life on land, that would be very sad. For a lot of reasons.
For accounting mostly.
Oh, for accounting mostly. So, can anyone tell me the straight line depreciation method?
It's a linear decrease.
It is. And it is a linear. It is linear. We love straight line depreciation. You guys did not need to learn double declining or units of production, I hope. Those are both fun methods, but a lot to do.
We're gonna need another hour or so.
Yes, especially for double declining. That one gave me trouble. All right. So the reason why we do depreciation, by the way, is what principle? What principle is the reason why? Yep, expense recognition principle. The reason why you expense things in the time that they are done. So with straight line depreciation, we got cost minus salvage divided by years. Now I'm going to give you guys two different problems to work on. We'll leave this up at the top. Little cheat sheet. And these are two separate problems, so they're not connected at all. All right, question 1 is up. I'm going to put down question 2 after. All right. I'll give y'all, we'll say 7 minutes for both of those, since it's two problems.
On YouTube, you can hear you talking, right?
Yes.
Throughout everything.
I make sure for a fact too, because that's why I keep tabs of this to make sure the green light's on.
Mhm.
But I always make sure that the computer's face towards me too. That's why it's like in the spot here, tripping me over.
Okay. Where can we find it on YouTube?
It should be YouTube. Are you in Miss Akers?
Yes.
We should. I'll send you an email.
Okay.
I sent it out before, so it should be in your emails. But if not, I'm just send me an email and I'll send it over to you.
Okay.
All right. What's your email?
MXS296.
Have a good one. Meredith?
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Sending you a link to the YouTube.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And I'll hopefully have that up before midnight.
Okay.
The only reason I say that is because no joke, the moment that I leave here, I go to the Woodlands campus for classes till 9.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm not editing this. It's just gonna be literally tossed up. I'm hoping I can just upload it through this computer because that way I could get it out before like 6.
Okay,
But it will be up by tonight.
sounds great. Thank you so much.
Of course, have a good one.
You too.
If anything, we have separate chapters because I record every group study. The other ones are just edited, so we have chapter 4, 5, and 8 up on the board already.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, have a good one.
You too.
All right. So let's go through this. So first things first, how are we setting this up? What's our cost? And what are we dividing by? 10. How much is this getting us?
3,000.
3,000. Now, what's the journal entry? I'm shorthanding for time. Basically, yeah. This is what we do. And now, how often do we do this journal entry? Every single year. We do this journal entry every single year. This is what's called our annual depreciation, meaning it happens every year. Now, let's say we go 3 years in. How much would be our accumulated depreciation? 9,000. Exactly. Because what we're basically doing is every year, year 1, 3,000. Year 2, 3,000. Year 3, 3,000. We get a total of 9,000. Now, how do I find my book value? Cost minus AD. So Their cost is gonna stay the same to 32,000. You don't take out the salvage. You never take out the salvage. You take just the cost of the equipment. And you minus out 9,000. That's how you do it. So this is your book value after 3 years. Now, after 10 years, you will have the same amount as your salvage. Your salvage stays and it never changes. It is basically the infinite amount of how much that thing's worth to us now. That's just a little fun fact. I don't know if that's too important for the test. But now let's worry about the next one. On March 1st, we bought equipment for 17,000. We believe it will have a salvage value of 5,000 and useful life of 4. Write the journal entry. So first, how do we set this up? And what's the cost? How much is that?
3,000.
3,000. Now, is that the end of it? Need to multiply it by 10 over 12. Why do we have to multiply it over 10 over 12? Yep. Basically, this is called a partial year. You do need to know how to do a partial year. So make sure you're able to count how many months you went. If it's first, you have to count the whole month. Don't make my mistakes. So, if we take this,
2,500.
basically, yes, 2,500. Now, what's the journal entry? So this is for year 1. What's going to be my journal entry for year 2?
3,000.
And now, just as before, we're going to say we're in year 4 now. What's going to be our book value?
11,500.
So,
Oh,
I think-
that's total accumulated.
Yeah, that's total accumulated.
Yeah, 1,500. 1,500 for depreciation, so our book value.
So 5,500.
5,500.
I'm so glad I can add.
Adding is a good skill.
Now subtracting, on the other hand.
Basically, just add backwards. All right, 5,500.
I feel a lot better about this now.
This is not chapter 7, thankfully. So I'm gonna leave this up here for a minute, but this is how we do depreciation. We're gonna run through this now and worry about this gain, well, not the gain, the sale and disposal of plant equipment. We'll save capital. Well, let's run over capital and versus revenue expenditures. I'm just gonna out some examples. Tell me if it's a capital expenditure or revenue expenditure. Y'all have a good one. So, we bought a new motor for our truck. Capitalize or expense? Capitalize. We did an oil change. We fixed the hole that was punched in the wall. Expense. Y'all have a good one. Bring it back to mall. So, we built a new heating system in our building.
Built a new one?
Built a new heating spins in our building. The building's old, the heating system is new.
Okay, capitalized.
Capitalize, yes.
So are you talking about like capital expenditure and revenue expenditure?
Yes.
Okay, so revenue expenditure is expense.
Revenue expenditures or expense. It doesn't make sense because it says revenue expenditure, but the reason why it's called that is because you pay money to expense it. We had to pay to get our oil change. Yeah, it's a way because we have to fix up stuff that makes us revenue. That's the best way I can explain it.
I have a question about the professional year.
Yes.
How did you figure out from the information that it was 10 months out of 12?
Right here. March 1st. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
So, okay.
Because that's how many it was in use.
So
We,
it was only a half year of the 4 years.
yes. So we took out most of it. Well, we only took out 2 months. We said, oh wait, 2 months we didn't use it. So these 2 months can go in the garbage. So we're now going forward with the 10 months because that's how much we've used it for.
Right, but it still says like, so you use the knowledge of 4 years. But
For this part though, we only, this is our annual depreciation. We
that's the
annual,
starting year.
that's starting because every year we do 3,000.
Okay.
But because the first year was partial, we can't take out that 3,000. We have to take out part of it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Do y'all feel all right with revenue expenditures and capitalized expenditures? Yes.
So, what happens if it's, like, when it comes to like the partial year thing, what happens if it says June 30th?
Then you don't count June. You went through all the months. That's why my brain was, when I did April 1st, my brain was thinking April 31st. So if it was like April 31st, we use 8 months instead of 9 months. But with first, you use 9 months.
Yeah, because we're including the whole-
We're including the whole month. But if it's like the last day of the month, you might as well take the rest of the month. Don't make it hard on yourself. And I think, like, honestly, throughout all of my year, like throughout all of my schooling of accounting, we never have to like go into like, oh, okay, we have to break up 30 days because we got it on the 15th. No teacher's gonna put you through that kind of misery. So let's go through the gain and sell of equipment, not the gain and sell, the sell or disposal of equipment. And then we'll wrap up with talking about natural resources and intangible assets. And then we would have covered all of chapter 8. And we still got 30 minutes. I'm so thankful I took over this for 30 more minutes. All right, I'm gonna put 3 problems on the board. I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes to solve them all. But the 10 minutes starts the moment I put the first problem up the board. That way you guys have the first problem to work on while I write the rest of them. And you're writing journal entries for each of these.
Oh, that's ace. It's 80. Right? I thought that was what I thought too.
A reminder, AD is accumulated depreciation. I'm just shorthanding for time.
So. Is it 2 or 3 problems?
This is 3 problems. Y'all got 8 minutes. Yes.
I was wondering just why accumulated depreciation was. Okay, I don't know how to look this up.
Why is it a thing?
No, I know, I understand what it means, like, why are they? Okay, so. Wait, what's the normal balance of accumulated depreciation?
Credit. Because you have to
Oh, this
remember.
is getting rid of it, okay.
Yes.
Okay, got it. I'm like, why is it there?
Yeah, because if you remember, when we were accumulating that depreciation, it's credit because it's a contra asset.
Okay, got it.
Can't believe I remember that.
I forgot what the new things were in terms of.
Oh, it's all good.
So one of the things we have is in terms of depreciation,
Cost of goods sold.
cost of goods sold, or gross profit, I guess. but-
Gross profit isn't an account though. That's more just like an ending
Yeah.
answer. It's like net income.
Yeah, okay, so we got cumulative depreciation, cost of goods sold. So like, is that what-
It feels like, well, you got like all the contra revenue accounts like sales discount, sales returns and allowances.
So sales returns analysis and sales discount are.
Yes. So basically anything that goes against anything is going to be a contra whatever it is. So like contra revenue, it's not contra it's technically contra equity, but it's specific to revenue that we call it contra revenue.
Right.
While like accumulated depreciation or allowance for doubtful accounts are both contra assets, yes.
Is that part of equity?
Technically, but it's not an account we use. It's more of like the ending product and it gets tossed into retained earnings before it ever touches the balance sheet.
I was curious.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, just figure out like why is like house scared by cumulative depreciation really just better.
Also, are you gonna email like all the duplicates?
Yep, I'm gonna do that. So we don't have chapter 8 done, but we have chapter 4 and 5. And I'll email those out tonight for, yeah,
Because duplicates really help me.
I'm glad.
That sucks. Right when I get back from spring break, that's what I'm hit with.
What?
Microeconomics, yeah.
See, that's why I'm glad like some exams happen right before spring break, then you have an actual like week to chill.
Yeah, but I don't even get the week to show this. Guess what? Not only do I have an exam with that, and after I get back, I also have an essay over a piece of legislation that was passed in the last year of Texas. I would just summarize what the effects of it could be and what it actually means.
Oh, the Texas political class.
And that's government.
Oh, Texas government, same difference.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to do it, but you know, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I think his name is like Max Cast. Yeah, on the bicycle, right? So, yeah. So, what do you mean? I'm just gonna sit my teacher as a study guide for the study. That's my macro in high school. It's only 8 months out of high school.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys like 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna start running through all these. But hopefully this wasn't too feeling like it was pulling teeth too hard. All right, let's start going through this. We sold a truck for 10,000. We bought it for 30,000, and it had an accumulated depreciation of 18,000. Can anyone tell me what we're debiting?
Like cash.
All right, we'll worry about those two for now. Let's see, cash. How much cash we got?
10,000.
We debit out 18,000. Now our truck. Do we debit or credit?
Credit.
For 30,000. Is this equal?
No.
So are we heavy on the debits or the credits? Basically, which one has the bigger number? And that's gonna be our credits.
Oh, my.
I was like, wait a minute.
Which means we got a loss. Best way to remember a loss, loss is left, to the left of the side. Or I guess in your guys' point of view that way. That's my left. Of 2,000. Best way to figure this out is finding, if it's hard to do it by setting up like this, take your 30,000, minus out your accumulated depreciation, you get your book value, which should be 12,000. And then you figure out, all right, did I pay more than what I thought it was worth, or did I pay less? And in this case, we paid less. So let's go to the next one. We sold our equipment for 8,000. We bought it for 10,000 and it had a 4,000 accumulated depreciation. Now, what are we debiting first? Cash. And what? Perfect. Got 8,000 here. Got 4,000 here. Now we're going to credit our equipment for 10,000. Now what's heavier, our debits or our credits? Our credits. Our debits, not our credits, our debits. So we instead put a gain account. Where we say, all right, 2,000. We broke out even. And once again, how we find it, another way is through doing the book value of 10,000 minus 4,000. We thought this thing wasn't worth more than 6,000, so we're lucky to get 8,000 out of it. Now the last one doesn't deal with the sell. We just disposed of our equipment, our computer, It had cost us 3,000 and had accumulated depreciation of 2,700. What's our debit?
Community appreciation.
Accumulated depreciation. What's our credit?
It's-
Computer. Are we heavier on our debits or our credits? Credits. So we have a loss. 300. Now, does this make sense? Anyone confused? All right. So, to wrap everything up, we're just going to talk about the last page with natural resources and intangible assets. So natural resources, can some people give me an example of what natural resources are? Oil, gold, timber. So there's a way to technically reduce it. What's that called? Depletion. So you deplete natural resources. Now, what is depletion? It is using up, but what kind of account? If expense. Now, intangible assets. What makes intangible assets intangible? Can't touch it. Lack physical substance. They provide future benefits. Now, can y'all name me some intangibles? Copyrights, trademarks, trade names, intellectual property, patents. Yeah. So, and how do we depreciate? They do. There's a term for it though.
Amortization.
Amortization. So amortization is the process of basically depreciating. It's just a new word. And the last bit is about goodwill. We're going to do one problem on goodwill.
So, it's like, I think it's like depletion, but is it for like intangible?
Yes, it's only for intangibles. So basically, plant and tangible assets depreciate. Natural resource deplete. Intangible assets, amortize. And the last thing is goodwill. What type of account is goodwill? Is that one that is tangible, intangible, or is it a natural resource? Intangible. Sorry, we weren't able to go through the homework.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm gonna meet with, Professor Jaeger tomorrow.
Awesome. And if anything, try to work through it. Whatever you get stuck on, you can take a screenshot, send it to me, and I'll try to answer as fast as I can.
Yeah, I'll do that tonight. All right, thank you.
All right. The company bought a small business for 300,000. Their net assets were worth 200,000. What is goodwill? Huh? 100,000. And that's all to it. So do you guys know how we all got there?
No, it's water didn't go over.
If she didn't go over it, it shouldn't be on the test, but in case it is, what we do is we say, all right, we bought it for 300,000, but it was worth 200,000. Now, because of that, we paid more than it was worth. Which we call goodwill. And usually this goodwill is because they have a great reputation, they have great employees, they have a good management system, and it's stuff that you can't really say what it is. You can't pinpoint it. We'll say if I bought the Starbucks upstairs, Starbucks is hit by 50, like at least not 50 million, but like that Starbucks itself is probably hit with at least like 500 people a day. Now, if I bought it for, we'll say it's the same numbers, 300,000, but its net assets were only 200,000. Well, that 100,000 is because I know I'm going to get business with Starbucks, and that's all it is. Yes.
But there's been a question just like that, but instead of like, but it wouldn't give you like net assets, it would give you like assets and liabilities, and you have to find your net.
I don't think so, but if you need to find your net assets are always going to be assets minus liabilities. Basically, you're reforming the question of assets equals liabilities plus equity, but you're making assets minus liabilities. Yep. All right.
That would be in the best.
At least figuring out goodwill will be, I believe. But that's for Miss Yeager's test, I know for a fact. Miss Blocker's, I don't know for a fact. But we got 5 minutes. That is everything from chapter 4, 5, and 8. If there's any questions, please let me know, and we go over anything in the next 5 minutes. Otherwise, you guys are free to go. Have a wonderful studying, and I wish you all the best on your exam.
So FOB just, that should be first.
Yes.
Then we get to the. But,
We did.
Exam, this is for this exam?
Yes.
so as the buyer, like when we're purchasing like inventory,
Mhm.
if it's like destination, the seller is responsible, so that means we don't have to pay, they pay.
Yes.
And so for the shipping point, that means we're responsible, meaning delivery expense and, okay.
Well, if you're the buyer, it's inventory in cash because remember $8 book versus $15 book because of shipping.
Okay, I was wondering like, I was
Okay,
wondering.
so I was wondering why you put that, so I was like, it was confusing, I thought that was the answer.
Oh no, that was me putting an example because it's like if I buy a $8 book off of Amazon, but I had to pay $15 because of shipping, I'm telling everyone I got a $15 book.
So.
Have a good one.
So is there 4 different journal entries for it, if you really think about it?
4 different journal entries for shipping.
Yeah, just shipping something.
Technically there's 2. There's 2 journal entries, and there's 2 scenarios where you don't worry about a journal entry, where it's just you don't worry about it. So if we are the buyer and it's FOB destination, we make no journal entry. We don't care about it. We say, all right, I'm gonna stay home, have a nice cup of coffee, and I'll see it when it gets here.
So you don't have to make a journal entry for that?
No,
So
you
if
just
you're buyer, it's destination.
yes. If your buyer and it's in its destination, you don't worry about it. If you're the seller and it's shipping point, you don't worry about it.
Okay.
But if you're the seller and it's destination, you got to get those goods over there. And so you're going to be paying the man to say, hey, please bring that over to them, please.
So it's gonna be shipping expense cash?
Yeah.
So shipping expense cash for that one?
Yeah. Shipping expense will always usually be cash. Shipping expense or delivery expense for that one. And then for the buyer, remember, every journal entry has inventory. That's one way to think of it. Or if you think of it the other way, it's worth more because we pay more for it.
Okay, so it's gonna be inventory cash. Then.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
And those are only 2 journal entries.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Yeah, of course.